Hey guys, still there. I'm on with Reef today, and I'm discussing a deck that he sent over to me. It's going to be geared towards forest fighting, and this is exactly a specific deck towards fighting in forests. So the infantry is geared towards it, the vehicles are geared towards it. He wanted my opinion, so this is going to be a discussion of the deck. Alright, Reef, just walk me through it. What kind of command units do you have and why? Or logistics units?
Let's take a look. First of all, I decided to go with some APC that will survive artillery strikes, but not something too expensive so it can be disposable if things go bad.
Right. Depending on the type of force that you're dealing with, command infantry would be really useful.
It does can be true. My playstyle is usually around the vehicle command, but I sure as hell can try it.
The thing is, if your CV is being spotted, it's usually being spotted either by reconnaissance or it's going to get shot at by a vehicle right away. So usually you won't take too much artillery fire on a CV, and that's why personally I prefer my CVs not to be found in the first place. By just going with infantry CVs because they have, I believe, very good stealth or good stealth. And a UAZ, or sorry, the YW701 just has poor stealth, so it's easier to find. The problem is, though, you only get 4 infantry CVs.
Yeah, that's another problem in my opinion, because infantry, one lucky shot can take them out, and maybe it's better to have more availability.
Yeah. Well, it's up to you. Just try whatever you have in there, and if it's working for you, keep it. If you're thinking that your CV is going to get killed off too easily, just switch it out.
Yes, I surely will.
As far as the rest, FOB looks good. MI6 transport. Let's go with the other 2 helicopters. Yeah, the only thing you can bring is an MI4.
Yes.
Which is really small and doesn't carry anything. And then you have a cargo truck. Yeah, that looks good. Okay, infantry. Lots of legions. Couple of Zanshis. Are we talking tactical gameplay, so low amount of income, or just full out?
In my opinion, it can be fit to both of the cases, because if you have a low income, you still have units that can be jack of all trades if needed, and if it's an high income, you still can spam them a lot.
Right, okay. The thing about a tactical game, I wouldn't be using that much infantry in a tactical game because you don't get that much units or that much points to spend anyway. So if you want to gear this deck towards tactical, where you don't have a lot of income, make sure you up-vet the units that you have.
That's a good point.
Because you just get more bang for your buck, basically.
Yes, I agree. I will never use 40 units of the Zananshi, how well they are called.
Probably not. Probably not. Anyway, Cardiff Base Legion and Z5. These are just your elite push troopers, I suppose?
Yes, I think they can work very good with with another one.
Right. Okay. Then 19 fagots. That's a whole lot.
Yes, that's what the card get me, but after what you said, I think I can go with less on veteran.
Yeah, especially considering the low amount of accuracy that they get, I would recommend a veteran, because you're going to get a little bit more accuracy, and it's also going to mean that your infantry is less likely to get wiped out in the first shot. ATGM infantry has to hit. If it doesn't hit, then it's going to get shot at, and considering it's a 2-man squad, and the game calculates the amount of HE damage that something does to it, let's say it's a tank, any tank is going to kill these guys in one shot.
In my opinion, in very, very close quarter fights like Forest, there will be less chance for those infantry to actually take place, because in the few games that I use it, I didn't even reach a situation where I even call these units.
Yeah, fair enough. But you would only use these things on the edges of forests, not exactly inside a forest, since they don't exactly have time to aim.
Yeah, that's correct.
For inside forest, you already have the legions with their anti-tank weapon, which for 40% accuracy and 14 armor penetration is pretty good.
The only problem with the Legion is that they only come with a chopper, which is the kind of obstacle when fighting in forest.
Yeah, that's indeed a problem. but you can just drop those off quickly and get the helicopter to leave.
Yes, of course.
One thing though, why are you using the base Legion and not the Yugyeondae 90s? Because right now I don't see any heavy infantry with high anti-tank capability in your deck. So if you do come up against something, let's say a Leopard 2A5, you're going to have a very hard time killing it off.
I more use the basic Legion as some kind of commando infantry with limited AT capabilities. If I see APCs in the forest and I don't want the Ultra Legion to get attacked by them.
Right. Well, since we have one activation point in the deck left anyway, I suggest putting in the Yugyeondae 90s. They're going to cost you 45 points. You get an MI4, which is absolute garbage. But the infantry is very good. Especially the amount of anti-tank capability that they get.
Actually, it's the same availability. What is the big difference beside the RPG?
Not too much, but the RPG in a close quarter forest fight is going to make all the difference. Because if you have, let's say, a tank that has about 15 armor, which is average, let's say you fire at it with the Legions. The Legions do 14 points of damage, which means that that tank is going to negate 10, or let's say, it's going to negate all of the damage from that armor penetrator. It's going to take 1 point of damage. So you're going to have to fire 10 charges in order to kill off the target that you're firing at. If you fire at them with the Yugyeondae 90s, you get an armor penetration of 23, which means that the tank instantly loses 8 hit points out of 10. So you only have to fire 2 times.
That's impressive.
That's the difference between these two guys.
Alright, good to know.
Alright, let's switch those Fagot anti-tank infantry to 14, because that's more than enough. If you're going to go through in 14 even, then something's wrong with the gameplay, not so much the unit.
Yes, I did.
Okay, as far as the anti-aircraft infantry, QW1, I believe that's the best you can get in this deck, right?
Yes, and even I have a good quantity of those.
Yeah, but I'd still go with Veteran, because you just don't get that much opportunity to fire with them. Or you're going to have to spam them all over. It's up to you. Personally, I go with 7, because I like the additional accuracy that gives them.
That's reasonable.
As far as their transport, its damage is negligible.
One is faster on the off-road, and I think the other one is... no, actually, I see no reason to take the first one.
Yeah, but the second one seems better on all accounts.
Yes, it is. It's better amphibious speed, better off-road speed, and even more armored.
Yep. Okay. Then, Fang Hua Bing as napalm troops. Nice to have these in. You already got a whole lot of Legions, so these might not be that useful.
Yes, but it's more cheaper, so you can go to the flanks. A very disposable force, in my opinion.
Yeah, it is. But if you want something even more disposable, you could go for the B-Ban Chongpo, which is the recoilless rifle infantry. They have, again, heat rounds, but they can also engage infantry in a forest.
Yeah, it's maybe I can switch one of my line infantry with the B-Bang, however it's called. I will never use 40 units of those.
No, I have never used 40 units of Zenshi. I have a sort of similar deck, which is China mechanized, and I just don't go through that number of infantry.
Yes, I can even take the veteran of those recoilless infantry.
Yeah. And as far as switching out the Zenshi, I would keep the Zenshi in the ZSD 90 because that autocannon is very nice to have. And just switch out the ZBD 86, let's say the BMP one in the Russian deck.
Yes, I might do that. Yes, indeed.
And then 14 B-Band Chongpos, 20 Legions, 10 Yugyeondae 90s, and I think that settles it for the infantry.
You can see that one of the Legion is coming with the more advanced chopper, the Z9A, but in my last battle I didn't really call this unit at all, because there was not really a need for that kind of chopper.
No, there's not really a need for that kind of chopper, but they are a lot faster than the Z5s. So especially if you want to capture a forest early, or capture a building group early, then the Z9A is far better than the Z5. They have
correct.
better range, better speed, better guns. For 10 points, I think that the Z9A is well worth it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So let's upvet those to the Z9A. Alright, supports. 19 PGZ-80s. Why are those in here?
Mostly very, very, very cheap fire support in the forest.
Right.
They're not going here. They're not going in as a AA. They're going in as a good suppression unit.
Yeah, definitely a good unit for that. Then PGZ-95, great AA unit.
Yeah,
Ponge
indeed, that's the
3,
main. Yeah, sorry.
good unit. You don't really get any long-range missile infantry or missile defense in this deck, other than the Ponge.
Yes, it did. And even it is not that good.
No. 2100 meter range, that's the best you're gonna get.
Yep, but that's what I have, and it's very spawnable and cheap.
Yep.
So you can take them you can take them more close to the front line. Don't be worried too much if one is lost.
Yeah, exactly. 7 mortars looks good. And why are the PLZ-83s in here?
Well, I required some kind of artillery, and this is the only one I think I have.
Right.
With the IHE, there's nothing with more HE than it.
HE is nice, but it isn't everything. If you want to clear out a forest, then the PHZ-70, the MLRS, is going to be very helpful.
Sound interesting. Does it? How well it performs?
It has the same range as your mortars, 7,700 meters, but this thing fires napalm.
Oh, it's napalm. I didn't know that. That could be ultra useful.
So what you could do with this unit is first fire this one, then you fire smokescreen, and then you push in with your infantry, especially Legions first.
That's a good idea. Thank you.
And especially the combination of the Legion 90s and the Yukionde 90s is going to be very potent. You're going to be able to push out vehicles as well as infantry. And the PLZ-83, they may be a bit better at killing off higher point targets, let's say enemy artillery units, enemy infantry, but they're not that accurate. So in my opinion, or in my experience rather, the deck really works well when you fire with your mortars at, let's say, weakly armored units, transports, infantry, AA guns. And for the rest, you're just going to have to rely on your teammates.
Yes.
Alright, tanks. You
So
don't
we
really
got
get
the-
that many tanks, or at least not that good ones.
Well, you can never, in my opinion, you can never know when a super heavy will come to face you. So this is the reason why I have the ZTZ 85-3.
Yeah.
Beside that, I have, as you see, 2 more half heavy tanks and 2 more very cheap tanks for the force fight to assist.
Yeah. Have you ever gone through 29 of those ZTS 63 ones?
I guess not. I barely managed to even call them because there was not really a need.
Right. If you're barely calling them in, then you definitely don't need 53 of them.
Yeah, that's correct.
Let's see, which one's better? The Sin Hung has an ATGM.
Yes.
Now, I'll stick to the ZTC 63 because it has medium optics. Gotta say, the thing looks a bit like a duck. It's weird to see just an APC with, what's that, a Type 59 turret? Something like that?
It looks very similar, yeah. Look at the name, it's T62, it sounds suspicious.
Yeah. Alright, so the Sin Hung's out. We can keep in the ZTZ 85-2s. And I guess I was spamming a tank back then. Which was that? ZTS 63-2. It's the slightly more expensive brother of the ZTC 63-1. This one carries the Bastion missile. It's amphibious, it's pretty fast, medium optics, and it's cheap. Just take 40 points or 14 units of those.
Yet, I'm not sure that this unit will go into the forest if I call them. It's too useful for the task, in my opinion. But on the other hand, I have the Sin Hong, which can be sent into the forest.
Yeah, but you don't need to have the ZTC or ZTS 63-1 and the Sin Hung. That's way too many units.
Yes, I can up the veterancy.
You could up the veterancy. I would just delete one of those two and go with a, let's say, cheaper tank. ZTZ 88 could work if you wanted to.
Let me find it. It's not that cheap, to be honest.
Well, it's 50 points. The 40 point ZTS 63-2 is great too.
In my opinion, it's too cheap to send it against other tanks and too expensive to send it into the forest.
Well, not really. If you find that the enemy is using, let's say, high-priced tanks, let's say Leopard 2, so 100 plus tanks, if this thing closes to a knife fight distance, so let's say it's about 100 meters away, you can one-shot that enemy Leopard.
Interesting.
Just consider the game like this. If you have a rifle, and I tell you to fire at something at the end of the street, the bullet will have traveled quite far by then, and it's losing energy, so it's not going to be that good at penetrating, let's say, armor. If I tell you to fire at the glass that's on your desk, then the bullet's going to have a lot more energy, and it's going to be way more capable of penetrating the armor. That's the way that Wargame's armor penetration works as well.
Yes, right.
So at short range, a ZTZ 88 could easily penetrate and kill off a very high-priced tank.
So I guess it's worth adding to the deck.
Yeah, just experiment with it. Pick
Yes,
either the 88 or the 63-2 and see what works for you.
I think I can take the trained veterancy because after all they are going to get very close into the target, so
Yep.
accuracy won't matter too much.
No, accuracy is going to improve even more because you have a very, very short range to the target, which means you usually can get up to 80% accuracy if you can get the first shot off.
And that's the reason why it's cheap and it can come
Yep.
in 3 spares.
Alright, Recon. I'm only seeing 3 units. That's not too many.
Yes. I'm mainly working with the idea that in a very close quarter, as you said yourself, Recon isn't that really important.
True enough, but you still need to be able to see what's going on outside the forest.
Yes.
And Lyrens and Z9A's definitely a good choice. ZTQ62G. If I could have more of these tanks, I really wanted to. And then an
Yes.
MI1.
Actually, the MI1 can be easily swept with the MI2. I just saw that the MI2 have like 4 times more the fuel capacity.
Yeah, but fuel capacity isn't that important. You want to be looking at autonomy. And autonomy is 430 versus 440, so it only manages to make 10 more kilometers before it's out of fuel.
Yeah, that's
But
correct.
it's a bit faster. It's 200 versus 180.
Will be. Does it really important with the Recon choppers?
It can be. It means how long you're going to be in range of the enemy AA. So it could be important to have the MI2 instead of the MI1.
Yes, I guess 5 points more isn't that a big difference, and it's the same
You wouldn't
availability.
notice.
Yep, indeed.
Alright, vehicles. Let's see. ZDF 89s. Great ATGM units. They're just not that accurate.
Yep, that's the reason why I can spam them. It's relatively cheap.
Yeah. You could go either way with this. You could either spam a lot of them, or have fewer of them which have better accuracy because of their veterancy.
That it wanted to take 7 instead of 10 with these units because they look very disposable, very squishy.
They are definitely squishy, but all HGM carriers in the game are squishy. The thing is, though,
That's
that I
correct.
prefer my HGM carriers to hit something. And that's something that these things do very well. And having less units means less micromanagement for you. It's less of a hassle. But if you can manage 10 units of these, as well as all the infantry, then just stick with these. And the moment you start if you find yourself getting overwhelmed by the amount of units, you could switch back to having 7.
Yep, I guess so.
14 napalm tanks looks good. ZTZ or PTZ 89.
I had
Very,
it very good
very
in
nice
one.
units.
Yes, you told that yourself in one of your videos.
Yeah, these things are great. And then 24 Su-100s.
Well, this is the just, okay, let's call 8 of them and let them clear the area for the infantry.
Yeah, here's the thing though, they're not going to clear the infantry, or they're not going to clear the area for the infantry.
Well, they're going to work with the infantry and actually use the relatively good HE for the price to stun and kill enemy infantry while they're engaging mine.
Right.
They're gonna be like few meters behind my infantry.
Okay. That's a
No,
role
if-
that they can be useful in, yeah.
Yes, that's why I take so many and with such low veterancy.
Yeah. If you want to have something that's even more spammable, you can go for the BJ212. Not the HJ8, but the PWL78, which is a recoilless rifle jeep. And these things,
Yes.
they look a bit silly though, with the barrel sticking through the windshield. But these things can get into position quickly, they can fire off 1, maybe 2 shots, and they have a decent amount of armor penetration. Unlike the SU-100, or actually the SU-100 is only slightly less.
Yes, and also consider
Yeah.
the armor. Infantry can easily kill them with their machine gun, while the SU have very good armor for the price. Like 4 armor is very good for the price.
Yeah, for 25 or 20 points is not bad.
Yes, it can be useful.
Okay, onto helicopters. A bunch
Yes,
of Mi-25s
Yes.
and a couple of HOTs. How are the Mi-25s going to help you in forest fights?
Well, barely. I usually don't even use them because they're not really needed. They're
Okay.
just there for a case of a tank assault, I guess. But usually I won't use them.
Have you looked at the MD-500D AGS-17?
Let me take a look. Ah, the chopper with the rockets?
Nope, the grenade launcher one.
Oh, it's actually a good choice. I can really take a look into it.
They are half the price of an Mi-25. If you just call in 2 of these, you can have the same points spent as the Mi-25. And what they are really good at is suppressing or panicking enemy infantry.
In what situations should I use them?
Let's say you have a force where you want to push up, and you see a bunch of infantry units. These are going to clear out the infantry very quickly, especially if you combine them with legions on the ground.
Should I not just take the Z5A with all of the rockets?
You can, but these things carry a whole lot of rockets, a whole lot of grenades, whereas the 500D S5s with the rocket pods are going to be empty in no time, and they are slightly harder to aim than a grenade launcher.
Yeah, that's correct. What is your opinion about the Z9A with the 80 gems?
Hang on, the Xenon, the HJ8, that's a great anti-tank helicopter.
Does it have a place in my deck with the CQC environment?
Yeah, because you won't always be dealing with CQC, and sometimes you're going to have to be able to kill tanks out in the open. And the Z9A with the HJ8 missiles are definitely better at doing that than the SA342s. They
Yes.
are more expensive, but their accuracy is better, their range is better, which means less threat to the helicopter, as well as having an armor penetration of 24 versus 22.
Yes, that can make the difference.
So for the helicopters, I would be taking 10 of those MD-500D AGS-17, and then 7 of the HJ8s.
Does the veterancy bonus really matter for the MD5000?
Not really.
I
Not
see.
really. But they are likely to get shot at, and the faster these things can recover, if they survive, they are going to be more effective faster.
Yes, it's true.
But if you, again, just try out the deck, if you see that you're running out of these helicopters, that suddenly they're all gone, then either check your replay and find out where they all went, or switch back to 14. Because you don't need the accuracy on these things.
Yes, we surely do.
Alright, and then air, 1 B5 bomber, a couple of
Yeah.
Q5Ds, and a couple of J7Cs. Why?
Okay, let's start with the B5. Actually, the game that made me create this deck, I had a very, very bad experience facing this plane. So I decided, yep,
Yep.
it's like half my forces gone in a big blast radius.
Yep.
So I decided to actually take it on my deck for actually two reasons. The bomb, of course, is very very powerful,
Yep.
very good strength of 15. It means that you will get shot down less likely, let's say it like this,
Yeah.
unless they're spamming. And actually, this is the main reason because there's not really that more good option on the deck itself.
Well, it depends on what you want to do, because right now I'm seeing 3 bombers.
Yes, of course. In CQC, I don't see a reason to bring air superiority because this I don't really have too much good air superiority to take with me, and I'm not sure I really need them because I can spam AA, and because my unit is so cheap. So yes, the enemy maybe got a bomber and kill some, but I can just order more. I don't know if it's a good investment of my points to take a good fighter.
Yeah, it is. Because with, let's say you're facing off against an enemy that has a very good air superiority fighter, it's just going to see your B5 come in, and the B5 is just going to come lumbering in at 700 kph or 750. So they can see that thing way before it's going to drop the bomb. They're going to send their fighter in, and you have nothing to reply with. Your AA has a maximum range of 2100 meters against enemy aircraft, and they are not likely to get inside that range.
Well, I'm not planning really to take it in a hostile environment. We can say it like this.
But a B5, if in order to drop its bomb, it's always going to be in a hostile environment.
Yes, that's correct.
So they're always going to get shot at, whether they are going to be, let's say, slightly inside the range of the enemy air defense, or they're going to get shot at by a fighter.
Yes, but to be honest, usually I take the J7C in these cases where I just want to bomb something and I don't really care if it's going to survive or not.
Right. In that case, you already have 4 of these, then just scrap the B5 and get something else.
What do you suggest? An air superiority? A SID maybe?
A seed. The J7A Firebau. Long range anti-air radar or anti-air defense missiles. Very survivable jet. Decent fighter even. And they do cost 160 points, but if you fly this thing out, let's say twice, they usually make back the amount of points that you spend on them. And then your J7Cs can operate at least a bit more safe.
Yes, I can try this out.
So what I do here is either delete the B5 or the J7C. Personally, I would stick with the B5. So delete the J7C and get 2 Firebaus. That is more than enough anti-air power to scratch any kind of AA that might be problematic for your B5, despite all of its 15 points of strength.
Yes, I can play with it.
And then you have the Q5D, which delivers the same amount of firepower as the B5, slightly less. It is much more accurate. It has less HE power. But what you don't really have, aside from your helicopters, is a way to quickly dispatch of an enemy tank. So let's say you're facing a Leclerc or an M1A2 or an M1A1 in the open. You want to quickly take it out, and that's not something that the Q5D does.
There is the MiG-21 PFM and the Beast with what is seen to be very nice ATGM. I think I used them with a good success on Airland Battle, but I don't really remember anymore. Do you play with them?
Yeah, I play with them. I just use a different fighter, I believe, or different aircrafts. Where is it? You need to switch to multi-role.
Okay.
Because what we're looking at is the JH7. It's classed as a multi-role because it also has some anti-air missiles. But the YJ7 missile has 26 armor penetration, a good range. It's fire and forget, which means fly in, fire the missile and fly out without even having to look whether it's going to hit or not. They're pretty survivable, 40%, and especially they work well with stuff like the Firebau.
Yes, it's very similar like this.
So what I would do, let's say you're facing a position where you want to push up. First you send out your Fireball, 1, maybe 2, depending on the points you have. Then you fly in with the B5 and drop a bomb. It's going to neutralize pretty much anything in the forest where you want to push up. And then if you have an enemy tank response, you can snipe 1 or 2 of these tanks with the JH7s.
Yes. 2 more things. On the bottom of the list there is the Su-7 BMK with 64 rockets. Is it any useful?
Not really. These things are slow, they're very easy to shoot down. They are decent though at killing off enemy AA. Because they just fly directly at the enemy AA. Let's say it's Roland. They dump 64 rockets into it in no time and they fly off. And that's usually enough to kill an enemy AA unit. But it's only going to kill one. I know people who use this thing and love it. I personally don't use it. I go for the more, let's say, more expensive aircraft. And if you like this thing, or if you like the look of it, just try it. See if it works for you.
Yes, I guess I can do that.
And then for the naval category, let's go over that quickly. 1 Sovereign, a couple of aircraft, Tarantulas and Jangyus. Why
Yes,
the aircraft?
Because I want something that can be used as an air superiority fighter while my dedicated air slots doesn't have one.
Right. The thing is though, the Su-27K is an let's say anti-ship plane that incidentally also does air-to-air fights. And with just 2 muskets, you're never going to kill any kind of ship. Because I always assume that you're going to send out these aircraft at the same time.
Well, I don't really plan on them to take a role as a air-to-ship plane. I more want them to be used as an air superiority plane.
Okay. But the Sovereign is also pretty damn good at intercepting enemy aircraft. With 4.5 kilometer range on airplanes.
Well, it's so expensive that I cannot count really on this ship to be around my troops if I need it.
That's true. Alright, let's see what other ships we could use, because if you are going to face off against an enemy fleet, then you may not have enough ships.
I think that if I will need to face enemy ships by myself, probably I will have a much more dedicated deck to that. Because as you can see, this deck is built for a ground combat. If there is a ship here, they are just for support. Or maybe assisting someone else's fleet.
Yeah, true.
This
what I would do if I'd have this sort of combination is delete the Su-27Ks, but your argument is definitely valid, and put in Nanushka 3s. 120 point ships. They have 6 ASM missiles per ship, as well as 3.5 kilometer range on the OSA M anti-air missile. So with that thing, if you spread these things around, and they are coasters so they can get very close, you can have a decent anti-air umbrella close to your shore. But
yes,
if you just want to stick to the Su-27K, go for it.
Yes, that's correct. As you said, I need to play with the combination and see what fit the most.
Yeah, see what fits for you. Tarantulas, these are at rookie, okay. And the Jangyus at rookie, okay. Alright, looks good. I'd say give it a shot.
Yes, alright, thank you for the advice.
Cheers. Alright guys, if you want to use this deck for yourself, the deck code's in the description down below. Hope you have fun with this deck, and if you have any great replays, send those in through the description down below. Other than that, thank you for watching, and see you next video.